I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the February 7th meeting of the Common Council order. Please call the roll.
Councilor Olson.
Here.
Councilor Tom Hennessy.
Here.
Councilor Bender.
Here.
Councilor Sweeney.
Here.
Councilor Brent Hennessy.
Here.
Councilor Garfield.
Here.
Councilor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Herrick.
Here.
Councilor Kern.
Here.
And Councilor Dahlbeck.
Here.
Councilor Hale.
Here.
And Councilor Levine.
Here.
Recognizing the quorum, I'll ask for the consideration of the minutes for December 27th as well as January 17th.
So motion approved.
Heard the motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Item 6 is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
You heard the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carried.
Item 7.1, Environmental Services Director Roberts is recommending purchase of new flight submersible pumps for Lift Station 5 through sole source solicitation with electric pump in the amount not anticipated to exceed $74,599.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Heard the motion and second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
7.2, Finance Director Vito is recommending adoption of the 2018 Capital Improvement Program with tentative adoption of the 2019 through 2022 programs.
Motion to approve. Second.
Heard a motion and second. Councilor Olson?
What do we consider a tentative 2009 or through 2022? Are there going to be changes to it as we move along, or?
Yeah, that's why we have it as tentative. If nothing changes, then it stays the numbers that are presented tonight. But you can change anything. If you have 6 votes, 6 counselors that don't like what's in the program, you can change it then.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Item 8.1 was an amendment to the agenda. Mayor Hagan appointing Ann Porter to the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Superior.
Motion to approve. Second.
Heard the motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Item 10.1 is initial resolution of the City of Superior, Wisconsin, relating to the issuance of general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $5,500,000 for the 2017 Street Improvement Program.
Motion to approve. Second.
Heard the motion and second. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
10.2 is a resolution providing for the issuance and sale of general obligations street improvement bonds, Series 2017B of the City of Superior, Wisconsin.
Motion to approve. Second.
Heard the motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
10.3 is a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $1,640,000 sewerage system revenue bonds, Series 2017A, and providing for other details and covenants with respect thereto.
Motion approved.
Second.
You heard the motion. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
10.4 is a resolution introduced by the City Plan Commission authorizing a special use permit for outdoor sales at Banks Avenue between North 12th and 13th Streets.
Motion approved.
Second.
You've heard the motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
10.5 is a resolution introduced by the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry authorizing submittal of a grant application by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources
Motion to approve.
to the Environmental Protection Agency, which stipulates a pass-through of funding to the city for overseeing the design of a restoration project on Barker's
I'll
Island.
second that.
You've heard the motion in multiple seconds. All in, Councilor Fennessy.
Linda, could you just explain a little bit more of that? I was confused when I read that as far as what part exactly they were going to be working on.
Yes, great question. And this would have normally gone through Parks Commission, but the opportunity came up prior to us having our next meeting. It's the whole beach area, so the inland beach area, the pathways, the parking lot, we've done some buckthorn removal and kind of removed a path. And so the opportunity for a grant, a non-competitive grant, due to the number of beach closures with the E. coli. So it's looking at the runoff and planting and doing different things in that area to try to minimize that. But a great recreational opportunity.
Yeah, I was just a little confused where it showed the path diversion around the outfall of the creek. So that's all part of it then? Wasn't that, it seems that when we got the information, there was something to do with the trail
there
that
was a
goes
drawing
around the
there.
creek.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I was a little confused on, is it the beach or is it the whole trail system that runs along Barker's Island?
It's the inland area of the beach. So if you're coming around, going towards the inn, it's that whole strip along there.
Okay, because I think the information that was presented us showed a diversion around the creek outlet that came through.
Okay.
So I didn't know if that was part of the grant or not, or if that was a document that just ended up in our
Yeah, and
big stuff.
I'm not exactly, if you have it in front of you, I could tell you exactly, but.
I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, if you look on the second page, it shows kind of a diversion of the trail around that creek area where the bridge is.
So the Marina Drive planned trail realignment,
Yeah.
that's a completely separate ESD project that's actually in the works through a different grant.
Okay,
So
was that, okay, so that
So
also,
that's actually in progress and in the design right now, completely separate from this grant.
okay, because it almost
Yeah.
looks like it's within this grant.
Yeah, so
When
I'm
we
not
got the
sure how that
information.
ended up being tied to this, but that's for
So that
ESD is
is
working on
separate.
that
Okay,
right now.
that's what I
Yep.
kinda thought, so
Yep.
I just wanted to bring it
Yeah,
up. So
good
it is
question.
strict-
That's why I was a little confused as to where
Okay,
you
so
were.
it is strictly with the beach area.
Yes.
Perfect. I
Thank
agree
you.
with it, so, thanks.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
11.1 is an ordinance amending the traffic code, Schedule J, disabled parking zones by adding 1216 Hewitt Avenue.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Heard the motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
11.2 is an ordinance amending the traffic code, disabled do not block sidewalk zones by removing 2123 John Avenue.
Motion to approve. Second.
You heard the motion and second. All in favor?
I want to say something.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, the resident is requested to get a parking path put in that yard, and we'll also build a ramp for the disabled people who are living there. And I contacted Jason Cirque about it, and he has sent her what needs to be done as far as the specifics. Besides that, I'm all in favor.
Motion carried.
Okay.
11.3 is an ordinance amending the traffic code, disabled do not block sidewalk zones by adding 2334 Hewitt Avenue.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Heard the motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Before we conclude, Linda, I want to thank you. You fantastic Winter Festival. I've heard so many good things about it.
Yes.
So thank you and all the folks that contributed to it and worked on it.
If I could say, it was truly a group effort. A lot of great organizations and folks in this room as well came together and put on a great event for the community. So couldn't have done it without everyone else's support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further business come before this body, Mr. Herrick?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, during the fireworks, there was, of course, quite a few cars down at where the hotel is down there, motel is down there. And there was a lot of cars from Minnesota, so there was a lot of people down there.
Thank you. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, I was just going to say, while we're discussing the Ice Festival, we should publicly extend a thank you to all the sponsors that made it possible. It was a very successful event, and thank you, Linda, for organizing it, and also thank you to everyone, including National Bank of Commerce and all the other sponsors that helped us pull this off.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.
We'll resume the committee of the whole meeting in 5 minutes.
Okay, we'll call the committee of the whole to order.
Not every mayor candidate is cultured. Chinese.
Get out of the bar.
Hey, Warren,
Yeah,
will you turn down your computer?
yes, I'm working on that right now.
Okay.
Okay, we can recognize a roll call from the regular common council meeting as everybody being here. Warren on the phone, so with that.
Okay, with power to act, Finance Director Vito is presenting information regarding priority-based budgeting and requesting to approve transitioning to priority-based budgeting in 2 phases. Approve entering into a contract with the Center for Priority-Based Budgeting with a contract to be brought forward on March 7th for approval, and to approve the use of 2017 contingency funds of $20,000 contingent upon approval of the contract with Center for Priority-Based Budgeting.
Do we need a motion to approve? I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Bronson, you have a presentation for us.
I've got a short presentation here, 14 slides, so I'm back by popular demand. Made a riveting presentation last month, and tonight I'll be talking to you about priority-based budgeting. PBB is the acronym, so I may refer to that as we go here. Priority-based budgeting is a mouthful as we go. But, so the purpose of the presentation, we've just got, like I said, 14 slides here that'll touch on these areas. We'll discuss what we currently do with our budgeting process, what some of the potential issues are as we go forward, some of our goals, a recommended solution. Talk briefly how priority-based budgeting works, some areas where we need external assistance to implement this. We'll talk about the timeline and then what formal action is requested tonight. So what do we currently do? Last month kind of went through that whole process. I mean, by statute, state statute, we're required to adopt a budget on an annual basis. The way we do it is kind of use the historical numbers and our current year estimates to project what our budget will be next year. You may recall a couple years ago, some cuts were recommended, and it was basically I think it was a 1% cut across the board that affected every department. So that's what we've done in the past. So some of the issues, we've discussed this, that there are some potential structural budget problems, meaning a deficit that may hit us in the coming years. And I guess we feel that these making cuts across the board to cut that deficit is really not a responsible way, not the best way to take care of that deficit. Another issue is that lack of input and feedback from the community kind of leaves us guessing as to what's most important. What do the people want? So priority-based budgeting kind of takes care of those 2 issues. What is the goal? Well, there's several, and many that aren't on this list here, but the main goal is to continue providing the highest level of service for which funding is available. Another important goal is to understand the larger community values and budget according to those values, basically giving the people what they want. And I think one of the more important ones is a goal to be flexible if and when changes are needed. I think it's important to identify what we're doing and what it costs. So the recommended solution is to go to a priority-based budgeting model. And by definition, priority-based budgeting is a process that evaluates current city programs by their influence in achieving the most desired outcomes of the community, and uses this as a basis for allocating resources more effectively. So how does priority-based budgeting work? I think the first step is really to identify the available resources. That's our revenue. We have a pretty good idea what revenue we have to work with. Okay. After that, we have to do a program or service inventory. Basically, identify every service that is provided by each department in the city. We've had some discussions, conference calls with the Center for Priority-Based Budgeting. That's the name of the company that we're hoping to contract with. And their program hopefully will identify about 80% of the services that we currently provide. Some of the companies or municipalities that they've worked with, they identify anywhere from 400 to upwards of 1,000 different activities that communities provide. So that's a big step to identify the things that we do. The next one there is to identify the city's goals and the desired results. And that's where we will rely on input from the community, find out what's important to them. Then the next step is, once those all the programs are identified and we know what our goals are, it's to rank those programs from highest to lowest. There's, many things that affect the priorities there. Whether it's a mandated program, or whether it's just something we do and have done for many years. So, and then after all the programs are ranked, typically will fall into 4 different quartiles. And if budget cuts are needed, you start at the bottom, the lowest quartile, and look at the programs that fall into that bucket. And if you have to, you start with eliminating those. Based on the costs that we've identified. Some sample goals. I mentioned this is where we rely on input from the community. And again, the Center for Priority-Based Budgeting in the 120 plus programs that they've implemented, every community has different goals. Typically, the community will come up with 5 to 9 different goals. So these are some of them that they've identified or that regularly pop up when they're doing their program. A safe community, that doesn't always mean just police and fire protection. It also means safe road conditions and that type of thing. So it's kind of how we decide to define our goals. An economically vital community. A goal is to have a healthy environment, inclusive and socially thriving community, an accessible and connected community. Goal is to have quality recreational, cultural, and educational opportunities, and also to have a responsive government. So these are just sample goals that we'll have to determine what ours are. So where do we need external assistance? Again, we need that to collectively determine our goals. This isn't up to any one person or small group. It's up to the community. The second bullet there is we need to engage the community and then incorporate their feedback into prioritizing and identifying the services. And the big step there is to evaluate the programs and services that are provided. And then the last one there is to ensure great communication among the mayor, city council, administration, and the community. So again, it's just a group effort is required. So where can we get this assistance? I mentioned the company that we've been talking with and are recommending tonight is the Center for Priority-Based Budgeting. They are a Denver, Colorado-based company, and they organized in 2010, and they provide technical and advisory services to assist governments and school districts and other nonprofit agencies to achieve fiscal health and wellness through priority-based budgeting. I've mentioned they've worked with 120 different communities across the United States, several in Wisconsin. And what they offer is an efficient method for data mining and inventory of services and programs. I had mentioned that they, through these 120 different engagements, I mean, they've identified, and a lot of the services that we provide in Superior are the same as they provide in Janesville. So they've got a pretty good template built for us already to start out with. And then they've got proven ways to incorporate community feedback, either with surveys that they'll help us implement, or town hall meetings, things like that. And then the last bullet there is that we've received positive recommendations from communities who have utilized the Center for Priority-Based Budgeting. We've contacted about a half a dozen communities that they provided as references, and then also reached out to several others that weren't on their list, and just got great reviews. So a timeline, I mentioned earlier, statutorily we're required to introduce a budget by the first meeting in September, adoption by November 14th, and then we're required to have a public hearing. So none of that would change by going to priority-based budgeting. I mean, we're still have to meet the same deadlines. The priority-based budgeting timeline hopefully would be implemented in a couple of different phases. They've told us that they've had communities that have implemented the program in 2 to 3 months. They also have others that have taken 2 years to implement it. So there's no one fix or one thing that fits everybody. But our plan is to implement it in a couple of different phases over the next 2 years. This is a slide that was taken off of the Wheat Ridge, Colorado, I believe, off their city website. And they implemented priority-based budgeting, I think it was 2012. And it's a long presentation on the whole process, but this is one of the slides that they identify the top 10 lessons learned, and this was after they'd implemented. Number one, it says, be prepared for resistance. Departments will, when we're going through the exercise of identifying everything they do, there may be some resistance on, the prioritizing and costing out those different services. Number two is to address staff concerns early. This kind of gets back to just keeping everybody involved, having a team actively involved in the whole process. Striving for consistency. Their program helps with that. We're identifying our goals, and you rank things, whether they're helping us meet those goals in the community. So that helps with consistency. It says make sure your technology is ready. That's not an issue. We can handle the program that they've developed. It says allow for more time than you think. Again, we could slam it through in a couple of months if we wanted to, or, they said that, it's really at our leisure. So I think we have to plan on that to take as much time as we need. Number 6 there is to have multiple individuals fluent in the process. And kind of ties to number 7 there, use the same individuals each year. We talked to a few municipalities that had interns come on board for several months or a year to do the data entry, and at the end of the internship, they're gone, and then you lose all that knowledge. So I think it's important that we have kind of people in-house, so we do it ourselves, and we're familiar with the whole program. Number 8 there, have a pulse on organizational capacity. Not exactly sure what that one means. I'll let you interpret that one for yourselves. But next one is keep at it. The first year is about learning. So it's a work in progress. And then the last one there is to ask for feedback from participants. And again, that's just a group effort, and the more people can get involved, the better. So the formal action requested tonight is to move from our traditional budgeting to a priority-based budget, and to phase this transition in over the next 2 budget cycles. We're requesting approval for sole sourcing with the Center for Priority-Based Budgeting. They've given us a quote of $20,000 in 2017 for assistance to prepare our 2018 budget, which would be phase 1, and then the following year, $15,000 to help us with our 2019 budget. So this time, Warren's not here to enjoy the graphics that I added, but we've got
Just explain to them what they are.
Okay, all right, so we'll open it up for questions. Either myself or Finance Director Vito will take any questions you have.
Councillor Kern.
A couple of things that I kind of wanted to ask. I know you said they're going to help identify about 80% of the programs. Do we have an idea of roughly how many programs we currently offer?
I would just be guessing, at this point. I would say, I think it was Inglewood, Colorado. It was one of them that was similar in size. I take that back. Bainbridge Island, Washington is, I believe, similar in size to us, and they identified 447 programs.
Okay, and then the second part of it is, I believe you mentioned Janesville. What other ones from our area? Anything north of basically Eau Claire at all that had done this?
No, it was Washington County and Marathon County.
Okay.
So I think Marathon County is the Wausau area.
All right, and then the last one I have is with their whole kind of how we're doing this in a 2-phase aspect of it. With timing, is 7 months. That's kind of what we're looking at of trying to adopt phase 1 into it. Do we have a certain percentage of 50-50 that we're going to try to do on each one, or if we can't get everything accomplished, we're going to be looking at moving it forward along? I thoroughly think that this is where we have to go, but I just don't really want to rush it and just not be fully prepared to do it either.
Yeah. Like I said, there isn't a strict timeline. I believe they told us the city of Cincinnati, Ohio, was one of their customers, and they were able to implement it in 3 months. So, it's. And I don't know what kind of resources they threw at it to accomplish that, but I think we would take our time with it, and I think it's definitely going to give us more information than what we currently have when we go through the budget process. So if this phase 1 isn't 100% complete, come September when we're introducing budgets, I think it'll give us great information to work with.
All right, thank you.
Counselor Sweeney?
Thank you. My first three questions, then I'll rest and ask some more. Who's going to determine, whatever the number is, doesn't make any difference. Are the department heads going to determine their priority as a base for the greater total, or is who is a group? What is the group that's going to determine that?
Center for Priority-Based Budgeting, they recommended having like a group of at least six people, a peer review committee to review the rankings.
Okay, but let me go back to the ratings for, say, Department X. Is Department X, the director of Department X, going to determine his or her priorities within that department first to get to the group of 5 or 6 or whatever the number is to determine the whole?
I think what happens, and can you hear me? I feel like I'm not talking.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks. Because this is all somewhat new to us, we've had a few meetings with this Center for Priority-Based Budgeting, and so we've asked them a lot of questions. We probably chatted with them for about 3, maybe 4 hours. But what I understand to be how the process starts is, well, a couple of things. When they talk about the goals, they also use the word results. And what we're trying to identify first is, what do we think the community values the most? So that's one part of it. But the process will start with us internally, meaning mayor, city council, administration, but then at some point we need to bring it to the community to see if we're on the right track. We'll come up with some ideas for what we think the community has as priorities, but then we have to bring it to the community to say, are we close? Are we missing something? Is there something you want added? Is there something that we think is important that we've been doing that you don't necessarily think is important, that you don't want us to continue? So there's going to be a couple of parallel tracks. So while we're determining what the goals of the community are, we're also going to be looking at exactly what we do. And then we'll look at each of those programs and services that we do. And at some point, the community will give us feedback, and I'll just use a safe community as an example. If they come back and say, we think the top priority of our community should be that it's safe to live here, then we look at our whole inventory of everything we do, and we say, okay, this one fits into safety. This one fits into being an economically vital community. This one fits into cultural recreation services. And this Center for Priority-Based Budgeting is the one that will help us to determine, how does everything get ranked? What is the weight of each of those? If this program relates to a safe community, it's going to get a higher ranking.
Okay. And my next question would be, do priorities change on an annual, do we go through this process annually? And so if we do or don't, it would seem to me for priority, and tell me about that. Let me leave it there. Do we go through this on an annual basis? Priority 1 may well turn into be priority 10. The next, if we go on, I don't know if we do it every year or how that works.
Yeah, that's why we would, we're asking the 2 phases, hopefully we get through the first phase to, complete, majority of the work, but absolutely, each year we would go through and, review our priorities. There will be things added and dropped.
Okay, but year 1 we do that, okay? So we got our priorities.
Yep.
Now year 2 starts. What happens in year 2? Do we go through this process again?
I think we would. The first step again is to identify our resources and revenue, and
Okay, but we got that. Let's assume that the resources stay the same year 1, 2, and 3. But can our priorities change drastically?
I suppose they could. Yeah. Our costs will change each year.
Okay.
We'll go through the process of recosting the different activities and services.
Okay. So this is an annual process. I guess that's what I'm.
Yes.
Okay. And then we talk about the public. What is our definition of the public? How do we, who is the, I mean, I understand in a general sense who the public is, but do we have meetings for everyone in the city to come to? Do we, take me through what others have done at least?
Yeah, surveys have been a big thing. And we talked about that, having online surveys, but you're missing out on maybe a large part of the older population maybe that doesn't feel comfortable doing that. We talked about mailing out paper surveys with the utility bills. We'll try whatever we can to get the most engagement from the community.
Chris, as do you know, as participation with these cities or counties, I think some were counties, have they had a participation number that's adequate? I mean, I don't know what adequate is, to be honest, but I mean, is it just not having a meeting, and I'm not going to suggest this happen, but let's say only 5 people show up, okay? How do we engage the public, I guess is my bigger question.
Yeah. It's a good question, and I mean, I think we have to go at it a couple different ways.
Right.
And,
So work at it, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Garfield.
All right. So I guess first of all, I'd like to say that I think is a generally good idea. It is a good idea to take a stock of what services and programs the city provides from time to time to evaluate the priority of those programs and also to create a model of shared governance by gathering community input. With that said, I think we still need to discuss the fact that the reason we're in this position where we're looking at priority budgeting, and in my mind we're in that position because we have a shortage of shared revenue. We have not gotten an increase in shared revenue in many years, and also because we have some limitations to our levy from the state that are state imposed. That causes us to look at these situations whereby, having gone through this process of priority budgeting with the University of Wisconsin Superior and watching it through the UW system, the purpose of priority budgeting in dire situations or where there is, and I'm not saying there's a substantial lack of funding, but where there is a lack of funding generally means the complete elimination of low priority programs. Now my question here is, well, I have a few questions, but my first question is, when we're gathering public input for what programs are priority, that input is useful, but who is finally determining the priority level for these programs? Obviously, core services are protected. We're going to need to know how many different programs we're actually servicing, but my concern is it city councilors that determine priority level? Is it administrators? Is it actually community members themselves? Or are we gathering data, or are we building information to make a decision this year for which programs we're fully funding, which programs are getting partially cut, which programs are getting completely eliminated? Who's making that decision in the end?
Yeah. I mean, I think we can create our own committee, with whatever makeup we feel is best. For sure, counselors should be involved, community members. This isn't a cookie cutter approach. I mean, they've done over 120 of these. Every one of them has been different. I found the information I was looking for before, Councilor Sweeney's question about who reviews this and who prioritizes. In the city of Wheat Ridge, again, the departments scored each program based on their influence in achieving the goals, and then they had a 6-employee peer group that reviewed those rankings. So that's just one example of how they reviewed the priorities.
And the reason I ask that question is because the process of priority-based budgeting can go very differently depending on who has the ultimate. And I realize that priority-based budgeting and that is a mouthful, generally comes down to scorings or rankings of programs by a number of groups that ultimately leads to which programs are absolutely protected, which programs are mostly protected, which programs are vulnerable, etc. And in my experience, because there are going to be counselors that, based on the effects of different programs in their specific districts, have differing opinions. Department heads will want to protect the programs within their own departments. The public, based on where they live, different members of the public are going to have different ideas. And it does come down to a power struggle over who has a final say over what becomes the priority and what does not become the priority. So for me, before I was willing to commit to priority-based budgeting as a decision-making process versus, say, a scaled percentage cut on the budget, I would want to know who specifically ends up with the power to protect and the power to, essentially cut programs.
Yeah. I think a lot of what you said is on this slide here, the top 10 lessons learned. The big one there is consistency. I mean, I think we have to treat every department and the ranking, and just have to be consistent with all that. One of the other things that they said that this whole exercise helps identify maybe there's programs that we're offering out there that we can coordinate with an outside group that offers a similar service. So I think it's there's several different opportunities to improve the way we're doing things.
I think to answer your question, Counselor, the council itself and the public and the administrators, everybody's part and party to the discussion. The ultimate decision made for each program and its final ranking would be the Common Council.
That's the question, it has to be.
Tom Fennessy, before I get to you, Ward, will you pay that cab driver so he quits blowing the horn?
I certainly will.
Thanks. Councilor Fennessy.
No, I was just going to echo the mayor's comments that I think the ultimate decision is going to be the city council. Yeah. But I look at this and I support this 100%, and I look at this in a couple different ways. One is to get a number of eyes on this whole budgeting process, but what I really like about it is the citizen input. And I see this as a real opportunity for not only for us as a council to go out to the citizens and ask what's important, either with surveys or articles in the paper, whatever, but I also see it as a very good opportunity for each councilor to set up town hall meetings, because each district is different. And I think it's vital that we bring together all of the discussion and the concerns from each district in order to mold this into one process. So I see this as really opening it up and being very transparent and bringing in what the citizens want us to hear. And maybe we haven't been hearing this, and it really takes a lot of the politics out of it. And so I really support this process, and I can't emphasize enough to say, let's take our time and do it right the first time. Because I do not want to flub up and go back to the process that we were used to. I think we need to take the process and learn from other communities, learn from the consultant, and say, let's do it right so we can lead by example for other municipalities too.
Councilor Brent Fennessy.
I think some of the uncertainty with your answers tonight prove that we need this Center for Priority-Based Budgeting or some kind of organization like that. This is a completely different process than what we're used to. It's a completely different process than what we're used to leaning on you guys for your expertise and your guidance for. So I think some of the uncertainty that's brought up tonight is exactly why we need to go this route and we need this guidance, because it's a significant shift in the way that we've been doing it. It's pulling in the feedback from the citizens to find out what's important to them, and then having the opportunity to implement that. And I think we absolutely need the expertise and the guidance from an organization that's done this multiple times in multiple cities, multiple counties. The question I have is the quote that we have is for year 1 and year 2. Assuming that it all goes well, it goes as planned, is there a need for a year 3 or a year 4, or do other cities find that after the process is put in place, that now you guys do have the 2 years of experience under your belt doing it, forming it? Can they just kind of let us go, and then we can lean on you guys for for your guidance, just like we do now with the traditional budget?
I guess I don't know exactly how that would work, but I mean, if you buy a maintenance agreement with any other software program, you can use a program and then stop paying the maintenance, and then you're kind of off on your own. But I mean, I think if we were to stick with them, year after year, any improvements or upgrades to the program, that's what we'd be buying.
So the fee isn't only for their guidance; it's also for the software that.
Correct.
Okay, and then the second question I had is there's phase 1 and then there's phase 2. Am I understanding it right? Where phase 1 is just more of the informational gathering, the talking to the residents, finding out what's important to them, and then phase 2 is ranking and implementing it, or am I blending the two together?
I think I'll let Jean answer.
Take a stab at that. I think it's kind of blending it. I think it's really getting started with the whole thing, not just waiting until the budget year 2019 to have all the ranking done. I think the intent is to just get started working on it in the kind of the orderly process that they guide us with. I mean, that's why we're bringing it forward so early in the year, because this will take a while to do this. And so what they thought was that maybe you have a partially priority-based budget for 2018, and then you continue on with the process and complete it more thoroughly for 2019. And I can only assume what they mean by that is that in the first phase, we somehow identify the very highest of priorities that we have and the very highest priority services that we're providing, and make sure we don't make any reductions to those. But I'm just guessing here because we haven't gone through the process. But I think if we can hit it hard and do it right, we want to do it as soon as possible. But we don't want to do it, as Councilor Fennessy was saying, we just want to do it very thoroughly and do it the right way, as opposed to doing it quickly.
Thank you.
Councilor Garfield.
I guess what I want to get back to is something that Councilor Kern kind of highlighted on, which is, since we haven't seen this priority-based budgeting done to a community that's necessarily facing the specific challenges we're facing in our specific geographic location, I'm curious what type of feedback we're going to get from the community specifically. The goal of the priority-based budgeting being that we're going to ultimately end up finding ways to save money. But what we might find, having had so many years since we've had a shared revenue adjustment, is that the community actually expects additional services or programs that we're currently not providing, and requests that we spend more money that we don't have. So I'm more than willing to go into this review process and look at this, but I don't want to make people too optimistic that the outcome of this will be substantial, large savings with very little impact on the community, or a rosy outlook for the things that might potentially be cut. I'm curious what you and Jean think might be the outcome of this, but are you expecting the community to find things in the services we provide that they're comfortable with cutting, or they consider low priority?
Well, I think Councilor Fennessy took the word out of my mouth, the transparency. I mean, once we identify everything and lay it all on the table, here's what we do, here's what it costs, here's how much money we have to spend. If our expenses are more than what we've got, then what do we cut?
Right, and then we go back to the ranking system.
It's right there.
Jean, you looked like you wanted to reply to that.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
One thing that keeps going through my mind is when I think back over the years, how many people have communicated with us or shown up to a budget session, and it's so few. And I think there's probably a number of reasons. Either people are okay with what's happening, or they don't know what's happening, or they don't want to go up to the podium and say something because that can be intimidating. So I think if nothing else, if we do move in this direction, we're at least reaching out to the community, and they have the ability to sit in their home, fill out a survey if that's the way we do it, send it in. If they want to be anonymous, they can do it that way. So I think when we get to a certain point, we're going to find that instead of having nobody giving us, or instead of getting very little feedback, I think we're going to get a lot more than we're getting right now. And then some communities that are doing this aren't in a situation like we are. They actually don't have a budget gap, but what they want to do is they want to look at everything that they're doing and make sure that they're putting the money where the highest priorities are anyway. So when we look at all these, the way this program works, it puts things into quartiles. The first quartile is the top one, the most important after all the rankings. And then the second are probably very desirable things to do. The third and the fourth get to be less and less important based on the rankings. And so what some of the communities are doing that don't have a budgetary gap is they're looking at that fourth quartile spending and saying, we can better spend that on priorities that are up in the top quartile as opposed to this lower ranking. We aren't in that situation. We're in a situation, unfortunately, where we have some hundreds of thousands of dollars of a budgetary gap for 2018. And so we don't have the ability to just shift money around, but we have to find something that is a cost savings. And then finally, tying into shared revenue, it's really not, the priority-based budgeting isn't going to be our savior here. We still have the other tracks that we need to be addressing, and that shared revenue is definitely one that we haven't forgotten about that. We do every number of years go down to the state and kind of plead our case that we're extremely dependent on shared revenue. It's likely our second highest source of funding in the general fund, and it hasn't been increased, it's been decreased, and we don't get any inflationary increases, and that causes us to be in the position that we're in right now with the budgetary gap. So there's going to be a number of things that continue to happen. We need to focus on shared revenue and try to get that fixed. Maybe other state revenue sources as well, kind of put it all together, go down and talk to the right legislators and see if they can't help us. And in the perfect world, maybe we get some more shared revenue and we end up being one of the communities that has enough money to cover everything, but we just simply reallocate some of the spending.
Councilor Dalbeck.
I just would like to say before I vote on this, I would like to hear from my constituents. I don't think they give them a chance to know what this program is about before we even go ahead thinking about it. They're the last ones to know, and I would like to hear from them first before I vote on this program, because I think they should know what we're thinking and why we're doing it and how much it's going to cost. Thank you.
Councilor Sweeney.
Thank you, Dan. I think the system that we've used and we're using now is archaic, ineffective, and inefficient. And so I applaud management for taking a look at, there are other systems other than this, but they all deal with priority-based. I mean, doesn't one lead one's whole life on priorities? And so why wouldn't we do this for the city? I'm 100% behind this. With some reservations, some questions have to be answered. I'll certainly go along with that.
Councilor Kern.
Gene, you know, kind of going back to the phase one and phase two, I'm not one to be coming to assumptions. Are we, with having this, as you stated, being a blended kind of a phase process, are we still going to have a traditional budget to put next to it?
Well, we will have one budget. When it comes to the first meeting in September, we'll have one budget to give to the council for consideration. It's just a matter of how do we develop that budget. That's the part that's changing. And so I'll give you an example. What if we start this process and we start collecting the goals and formulating the goals, getting feedback on the goals, and we start ranking the projects, and what if we end up and it's the middle of September? We have to have something that is balanced to bring forward to you for your consideration on that. That I think it's a statutory deadline of that first meeting in September. So if we really go gangbusters with this and get a lot of this done early, we could have a priority-based budget to present to you in September. If we're not quite there yet, we're only partially through the process, we have to do something to balance the budget, so we'll have to make some cuts. Could it be in the old-fashioned method? It could be, but hopefully if we go forward with this, we're all getting into the mindset of trying to do more prioritizing, and it wouldn't necessarily be just an across-the-board cut like it has been in the past.
Yeah, I do.
Anybody else? Councilor Sweeney?
Bruce, I don't want to put you on the spot, but are you behind this? I take it you are. Right. Thank you.
Let me just say a couple things. Yes, I am behind it. I think we need to do something because the way we're going about it, as we have been, isn't really providing the right level of solutions. It's basically painting a brush with a wide spot. Put it in a more simple, or smaller, I should say, discussion. About a year ago, the council and the administration identified their respective priorities, and they came up with 3: infrastructure, housing, and commercial retail. 3 major factors in our community that's of challenge and suffering for the community. So that's a very small swipe or look at it. But if you took infrastructure, then you need to drill the way down as to what is Esther's district think is important. Then we would have to drill down even further to identify and fund. So each one's going to take a lot of discussion throughout the community.
Okay, I got a few questions. So, first of all, Gene, I think you kind of touched on what we do if this doesn't work out in the meantime. So we have to be prepared to go to a traditional budget though by December or September if we can't get there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
A couple other questions that were referring to some of the other things. Chris, you brought up mandated programs within the rankings. I think the problem there is we end up with unfunded mandated programs that is no fault of ours. Well, somebody else is dealing us a bad handful of cards. So that's an important part of it. My concern is I'm looking at department heads, and when you get to the point of the public telling you that be prepared for resistance, right? Here's my question. Are you going to have to lay off people to balance a priority-based budget?
I would certainly think that would be a goal of everybody to say the answer is no.
So with that, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. Mm-hmm. Then you're going into core services. And what if the public gives you what they feel, Esther, and you guys don't like that answer?
It doesn't matter. We need the feedback from the community. This isn't just what do the department heads want, or what do the department heads want to do with their own budgets. That's I think the whole beauty of this is that we get that feedback.
Okay, so then the importance is of having the group that is going to make these decisions collectively, and that's going to be a challenge. When you look at 10 counselors, how many department heads we got? We've eliminated police, fire, the stormwater, wastewater, and landfill because we're enterprise. Todd, you're a big part of the budget, right? Those are core services that we got to do. Jason, you're in development. Those are things that we need to do because this year our assessed values went down because we lost businesses. And I can tell you why we did, but I'm not going to. So a couple other things that I thought about here is we talked about possibly making changes. We had the group meetings on the 3 most important things that we thought were things that we'd like to see. Are those going away now because we have to go to priority budgeting?
Not at all, no.
Okay.
I think they'll be
But
actually,
there'll be less funding to them possibly.
well, I think they'll actually be what helps guide us to start. But again, we did the exercise we had all the department heads bring forward top 3 concerns, and we had counselors bring forward top 3 concerns. So the assumption is that the counselors are bringing forward what they hear from constituents as top concerns. And that could definitely be, I think, very useful in getting the process started, because if we do go with this Center for Priority-Based Budgeting and they come in and they say, okay, let's help you get the process of what results and goals do you have started, we've already done a lot of that work amongst ourselves.
Okay.
And then we, like I said earlier, we take that to the public and say, you agree? I think ideally, if this is done right, it can actually make the decisions easier rather than more difficult, because if you have a ranking system for every service and program that we do, and if people think that they've been fairly ranked, you're going to have program 1, 2, 3, 4, 400, however many we get, and it would make it much easier to say, program 400, you're gone because we don't have enough funds. We're not going to eliminate program 150. But your question, Counselor, is a very valid one, because we are so service-oriented that I don't know if it's 65% of our general fund budget is people. And that number could be higher now. I know it was around that some years ago. That's, I think, when you need to get creative and look at how can you make sure people don't lose jobs. Working with attrition, looking at, can one department help another? If a retirement is happening in one division, how can you help out and not have somebody else lose a job? And those are all things that that I would certainly want guidance with.
One other question then too. Do we think that we should be looking at our comprehensive plan again before we start switching our budgets around? Does that make any sense at all? We had briefly talked about it. It's been roughly 9 years. Jason, I see you grabbing your mic.
Yeah, Dan, I think when we had talked about this originally a few months ago, I think, kind of building on what Tom said, it would be nice to do an update to that based on some of these things, because it's going to be across the board. We know it is, and I think it would be a good idea to do that. I think we can do it hand in hand, though. I don't think we could, I think that process would take us a while, and I think it's a good opportunity for us to get that information, whether it be from surveys or, when we did the comprehensive planning stuff before, we did go out and had 10 separate meetings and did that. So I think that's a good suggestion to do that. So I would be more than happy to, we'd probably be doing it in-house anyway and doing the update, but I would be more than happy to schedule that and work with the finance department on that.
Yeah, my point in all that, Jason, is that they would probably complement each other if we were able to reach some sort of agreement or people buy-in on both things. So, okay, that's about all I've got. I want to thank you all for doing all this. Again, Chris, very riveting. But anyway, Jack.
Just one, whatever we do, if we don't change the system, or we do change it, the revenue is not going to change. Correct. The revenue is a solid figure. So we say we've changed from A to B with this, but if it stays in the old system, the revenue that's still a solid figure. Whatever that figure is still a solid figure in whatever plan we adopt.
Councilor Garfield.
I just wanted to quickly revisit, since we did discuss the percentage of our budget that goes towards staffing, and attrition came up, which is always an option, but the city is already engaged in some level of attrition to support and maintain our budget or to reduce our budget. I would also say that as a counselor, I would only commit to considering any potential staff reduction based on reversed seniority, and that I would not entertain any elimination of positions that had seniority within the city, because people rely on the city and city government for careers. And as a member of the local labor community, I think it's unfair to jeopardize a long-term career as part of a budget reduction.
Councilor Tom Fennessy.
Well, I think we're getting a little premature talking about staff reductions. It's way too premature. But I guess I just want to emphasize that this council has to stay strong and tall through this whole thing. Department heads don't lead our council. They give us recommendations. The council and the mayor really sets the priorities. And I think this is an ideal opportunity to bring the department heads into the fold where they should be with all of their goals and concerns and staffing, the whole thing, and make it the best for the citizens, not about what happens within departments, not what happens within council, but I think what happens for the best for the citizens and the community as a whole. And some of those decisions that this council is going to have to make may not be popular, but they're going to be the best for the city. But I see this process as bringing in those individuals, the community, the department heads, council, mayor, the whole thing, in order to make this the best for the citizens. So I see this as a good opportunity to make sure that we're working with everything, protecting our current staff, protecting our resources, our revenue, our expenses, and I think it's going to be for the best.
Councilor Dahlbeck.
I just have to say again, the citizens, you always bring up the citizens, but you know what? They're always last.
Doesn't
I mean,
have to
they
be.
cut. No, they don't. They should be first.
Yeah.
They should make the decisions on some things, and they never get asked. Or we have town meetings, and where are they? Some of them. And if we just get and let them know what's going on ahead of time, and let them get in on it before we do anything, let them have a feel of what we're trying to do, and see how they feel about it. Maybe they won't like the idea.
No, and I firmly believe or agree with you. And I think right now, we as councilors that are elected by the citizens
That's
need to
right.
bring this back to the citizens. And I
That's
think
right.
this is an ideal opportunity to force us to do this.
So I agree, because I think they should be in on it right from the get-go.
Mayor.
Just a couple things, whether priority-based budgeting is the plan or not, we go to the traditional way that has been known for many, many years. Either way, or any four options, we're going to be faced with one thing, and that is our budget's going to be finite for a long time and may decrease the revenue stream. There's no growth. Housing is what it is. As we notice, our retail base, commercial base is not doing very well. And then you have what was said earlier, state shared revenue, payment for municipal services. We don't know what's going to happen, but I can believe that it's going to go that way. So whether or not we go with this plan, that plan, or the third plan, it's important to be doing so to avoid a crisis. It's better to long-term plan transparency and communication to avoid reacting to a crisis all the time. I'll give you just an example. When I worked for the state, I didn't design it, but we had to reduce the unemployment insurance division, which had about 800 or 900 people in it. So what we did is long-term plan, total communication, and total transparency to the point of people knowing what was going to happen. when what was going to happen was 3 years out, there are going to be 300 people fewer. So what we did is constant communication, constant transparency, and constant planning with employees involved. And the long shot, at 3 years later, a handful of people lost their jobs because we prepared for the future rather than looking at the past. And those people that lost their jobs chose not to move because of a spouse having a job that they didn't want to leave, child 2 years left in high school and so forth. So it can be done, but you need long-term planning, you need transparency, you need constant communication.
Warren, do you have anything?
His cab driver kicked him out.
I think you lost him.
Well, actually, I spoke to Gene about this via email earlier, and what I had said that I looked at the PowerPoint presentation before it was made tonight, and I said that these are the good things that I thought about that, and I thought the two most important things were, and as the mayor has already said, one, that we have to have communication with everybody in the community, and that needs to be constant communication. And I know it was brought up about how are we going to do this. Well, Chris had brought up, what about a town hall meeting? And it won't be one, it'll probably have to be numerous town hall meetings. And then the other thing is, we can do something as far as a survey on the city's website too, to get some initial input. So all in all, I think this is a good idea. It's something that we need to do, and I will be voting in favor of it.
Okay. Anything else? So we do have the power to act on this. I want to just give you my last opinion on this. I really think we should get more information before we decide to pull $20,000 out of a contingency fund. I'm not sure that the definition of contingency follows in this allocation of money without getting more information. Figure out, have a plan, and if that is to get meetings set up, if we're going to do this internally, and figure out what kind of message we're going to get to the public, make sure that we've got the right message, that everybody that's involved will know exactly what we're doing moving forward, how the process is going to work, and if we can get the hiccups out first and then go to the consulting firms, more what I would call it, but maybe if we had more of our information to present to them, that we could save a few dollars there too. We're talking about saving money, but yet we're willing to spend $20,000 right out of the chute for something that we're not even sure that we're going to be able to get done in time for the 2018 budget. Just my opinion, my thoughts. Councilor Kern.
I'd like to agree with you on that as well. Just kind of what we've been talking about tonight, there's just so many uncertainties and we don't have an actual game plan. Like I said, I'm in support of it, but I think that we need to have it drawn out on paper a little bit more before we decide to move forward with it.
Councilor Brent Fennessy.
A couple of the objections that were brought up about not going forward with this tonight is exactly what this Center for Priority-Based Budgeting is going to provide. They're going to provide us the guidance with the meetings. They're going to provide us with getting the message out, how the process is going to work, and they're going to help us set up a game plan. I think we need to act on this today in hopes for getting some sort of budget, priority-based budget, whether it's a full-blown priority-based budget come September or if it's a hybrid. But I think for the most part, we're all in agreement that this is the direction we're going to go, and I think by hiring this organization is a fantastic way to jumpstart that process.
Councilor Tom Fennessy.
I agree, and I look at this much like a process that we're using for the golf course. We hired a golf course consultant to look at other municipalities and what they're doing for the comparisons, and I look at this the same exact thing. So I think we should move forward with it.
Councilor Herrick.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, we need to do something. We need to have an expertise in this situation. We do spend a lot of money on different type of surveys and things that we need to get as far as expertise. We just don't have the expertise in this area, so I think it's something we have to go forward with so we have a comparison.
Thank you. Councilor Sweeney.
I'm going to echo, took the words out of my mouth, Tom. We hired a golf consultant, we hired a landfill consultant. Both those worked out well. We didn't have all the answers when we started those, but it worked out well. And I have some questions, but I think they'll be. It's not enough. It's not a game changer for you not to vote in the positive for this. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Yes. Councilor Hale.
Okay. I had a question on, you said that this, organization or thing had done 120. How long had those been in, use at those places?
They started up in 2010, so they're a relatively new company, and started out as very manual process, and over the years they've developed, everything is pretty much automated. There's still the data entry part, but it does a lot of the calculations and that type of thing for us. I think several of them that we talked to, they've been on board for several years, 2-3 years. I mentioned Janesville. They used it for a couple of years and then had a change in city manager and finance director, so they're no longer using priority-based budgeting with the center. So, I think that the ones we've talked to have all been on board for several years.
That help? Good. Councilor Sweeney.
One thing, Gene, you can answer this. Have the finance department done their due diligence with this company and with the people, the government entities they worked with as of this date? Or do you have more to do yet, or where are we on that?
That's a great question, and I'm going to answer it in a couple of different ways. We had contact with 6 cities and counties, and I'm reiterating information that was presented to me. Our contract analyst had the contact with these entities, and everything that she heard was extremely positive as far as feedback about this particular company. And if you like the idea of priority-based budgeting, I've Googled that, and I can't even find any other organization that helps with this. I think this particular firm they got in kind of early on it to help communities, and as Chris mentioned, they've really fine-tuned their whole process, where they said it was much more of a manual, hands-on helping process when they first began, but they didn't have the computerized program to do the data mining and to make it much more efficient. And so I'm not aware of other companies that could help to the extent that this company can. And I'm glad you brought it up, because I wanted to make it very clear we are, as you know, sole sourcing this. But the company is also recommended by 2 organizations that I have a lot of respect for, and one is the Government Finance Officers Association, and they have been providing all the recommended practices that we've been going through in the Finance Committee for developing all of our policies and procedures. And then the other, they actually recommend this company, and they don't recommend anybody else. The other entity is ICMA, International City County Management. I cannot remember. Thank you. Yeah. They also solely recommend this company. And so both of those entities are all about professional financial management of your city and best practices. And those two entities recommend this firm.
Okay, any more discussion? Well,
Question.
thank everybody for that. So we have a motion on the floor.
Are you going to want a roll call vote on this? I'm
Roll call
assuming.
vote?
I'm
Yeah,
assuming
that's
so.
fine.
The motion is by Counselor Fennessy, seconded by Counselor Sweeney, with power to act to approve transitioning to a priority-based budgeting in 2 phases, entering into a contract with the Center for Priority-Based Budgeting, the contract to be brought back on March 7th, and to approve the use of 2017 contingency funds of $20,000, contingent on approval of the contract.
Does everybody understand the motion? Okay.
Counselor Olson,
No.
Counselor Fennessy, Tom Fennessy,
Yes.
Counselor Bender,
Yes.
Counselor Sweeney,
Yes.
Counselor Brett Fennessy,
Yes.
Counselor Garfield,
Yes.
Counselor Ludwig,
Yes.
Counselor Herrick,
Yes.
Counselor Kern,
No.
Counselor Dahlbeck.
No.
That's a 7-3. The motion passes.
Okay. Is there any other business to come before this committee of the whole meeting? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.